Welcome to Pro Bull Talk, where it's all talk and no bull. Get ready to slide and ride.
All right, let's go, boys. Hustle. Come on now. Let's go. Woo. Lay down now. Go.
This episode is brought to you by Sutherland Logistics.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Pro Bull Talk. As always, Brandon Wren, Blake Skaggs, and Briar Hart. Today we have CBR World Champion, Supermodel, Dancing with the Stars star, Mr. Bonner Bolton himself, Captain Rank Ride. Man, glad to have you on, buddy.
Man, thank you, Cody. It's an honor to be on your show, man. I've been loving watching what you've been doing with the podcast, and I'm super proud to see somebody like you stepping out for the Cowboys and really, truly representing a true voice in the industry and in the culture. And I'm all about it, man.
Man, I appreciate it. I kind of followed you a little bit. I watched one of your podcasts or episodes you was on, one of them others the other day, and you was calling some guys, some of them top dogs out too, and I was like, hey, man, I've got to get Bonner on here, man. Not only does he have an extraordinary story to tell with the ups, of course, you know, riding bulls, winning a CBR World Championship, and then getting and having great success in the PBR as well. But also the downside, the injury side of it, and how that went, and then, you know, then the bad stuff. You know, PBR kind of kicks you to the curb, and then So
yes, sir.
So you started riding when, really? You're from a rodeo family itself.
Yes, sir. So I grew up in West Texas, out in Midland, Odessa. For those of your audience that don't know me or where I come from, and my dad was a pro bull rider back in the day, which you may have known, Toya Bolton.
Yes, I did.
And him, I know him and JW knew each other a little bit. You're older than JW, right?
JW's actually 3 years older than I am.
Oh, okay. So you're younger. So he came on and was around my dad probably before you a little bit, right at the tail end of my dad's career.
Yeah.
And my dad was kind of on his way out in early 1990s, 1992.
Yeah.
He had just won the George Paul Memorial.
Yeah.
And hung his hat up after that. I think he might have gone on to a couple of the BROs right after they started the BRO deal.
Yeah.
And he got the shit hooked out of him in Denver and put him on the stretcher. I think he made the Cabin Fever worst rides or best rides, worst wrecks video. And you see a guy in red chaps getting the shit hooked out of him. That's my dad. And that was his last ride actually after that. And, you know, he decided to go on and be a father and a world champion dad at that, man. And I can't be more proud of him. He's been a hell of a dad and my ultimate hero. So, you know, so far in my life, and a hell of a guy to look up to. Big boots to fill, even though he's only 5'6", is what I always tell people. You know, and I come from a ranching background. I grew up there on the ranch. Our family's place has been there since 1903 in Odessa.
Wow.
And we raise cattle and horses out there. And, you know, that was my whole life growing up pretty much. But as soon as my dad quit riding bulls, he actually moved me and my older brother, Brody Bolton. Some of your audience may know him for his leather work, 3B Leather. He's done a lot of really great leather tooling in the industry for a long time, building a lot of guys sponsor chaps and saddles and whatnot.
Cool.
And my brother and I moved to Paris, France with my parents when we were I was 5 years old, and I guess Brody was 8. And my dad got an opportunity randomly after he quit riding. There was a bunch of scouts from Euro Disney going around scouting guys out at rodeos, going to ranches, going to reservations, scouting Indians. And they put together a guy named Mario Larache, a French, one of the world's most renowned famous horse stuntmen, put that show together over at Euro Disney.
Kind of like
and
a
they
Wild
kind of
West
did
show.
like this. Oh, go ahead.
Kind of like a Wild West show.
Yes, sir. It was a reenactment of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show.
All right, I'm following.
And that show has lasted. It lasted all the way up until 20 right there at COVID. I think they shut it down when the whole world shut down at that point. And they have not brought it back, unfortunately. But it was, like everything Disney does. I mean, it was blown out, incredible arena, there in Euro Disney on the grounds there. And in that specific part of Disney, it was, everything's themed out. And as you can imagine, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, it's kind of like, for those of your audience that might be familiar with medieval times or something like that. Yeah. The arena had sort of a canyon backdrop to it that was super realistic. And behind that, there was like a curtain, and the sun and the moon and stars would come out at night, and sun would come up, and they'd fog that arena out. And there was 2 holes in the canyon where they'd come in the arena and go out, and they'd run, horses, buffalo. They would reenact like a stagecoach attack with the Indians, and they had stuntmen rappel out of the ceiling for a bank robbery scene they did. They'd have a cattle drive. It was the coolest thing, and there's really nothing like it even over here in the States. And I grew up there, at an early age in my life. That was made a pretty huge impact on me. Of course, so did the nude beaches and all the pretty women in Paris, France too. That was a heck of an experience. But
how long were you over there?
So we were there for about a year, and we would go back and visit after that. We went back probably, I don't know. I think I went back maybe four or 5 times throughout my life after that. But we became really good friends with a lot of people from that deal, and we moved back that next year when I think I was about 5 or 6 at that point, and we moved back to the ranch. And from there, I grew up on the ranch, and when I turned about 10 years old, I had already been crawling on calves in the Brandon pen and starting to test my luck there, and finally talked Dad into letting me get on some steers at my uncle's. My uncles used to trip steers, and they were involved in the steer tripping, and they always roped calves and steers. And so they loaded all their steer tripping steers one day and let me and my brother crawl on. And that's kind of where it took off for me.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. And then you hit did you go pro rodeo and then the CBR, or did you go straight into the CBR?
Yes, sir. So I went from going to a bunch. I really didn't high school rodeo a whole lot. At that point in time, there was maybe like 3 of us in my high school region, in Region 2, and out in West Texas. So I went to a lot of bad company bull ridings at that point in time. That's where I kind of got my start, and amateur bull ridings all over Texas and some amateur rodeos. And then when I turned 18, I went to my first big bull riding, which was Tuff's deal out there. I think I went to Beaumont to his very first, kind of right at the beginning of that CBR deal, right after Tuff started that thing, maybe 2 or 3 years after that. And I ended up winning my first event there. And I was in college at the time. I was college rodeoing there at Odessa College. And I started going to some pro rodeos, started going to some PBRs, and I was kind of doing everything at that point in time. Yeah.
And wow, so you just got in. You won your first CBR event. That's pretty impressive there. And then it's pro rodeo.
Sir.
And
18 and won 10 grand. I thought, shit, you can't beat that.
Never another broke day. Never another broke day.
I thought that
was good.
I was shitting in tall cotton at that point.
You bet, man.
So you still living out in Odessa, or?
No, sir. So I bought a place here in Stephenville, Texas, about 7.5 years ago now, and I've been living here. I bought a little bit of acreage around here, and little place that kind of tucked back off in the woods. Nobody can see me. I can kind of be in my natural element.
There you go. You bet. Get away from everybody. And
that's right, man.
So when did you go? What was it? 16, 17? You got on PBR tour, made the cups.
My very first Built Ford Tough I got to go to was Portland, Oregon in 2012. And I kind of bounced off and on tour a little bit as an alternate. Right after I won the CBR World Championship, I think I was about 20 when I won that deal. I had torn my bicep completely off the bone at I think it was a Challenger event down in Wimberley, Texas. And I was doing really good, about to make tour. And I ripped my bicep completely off the bone. It took about 9 months for that to heal up. And when it healed, my riding arm healed really crooked. I never could straighten it out all the way, and still can't completely today. But it took me quite a while, maybe about 2 or 3 years to kind of adjust to that and figure my stuff out. And I started having to tape my arm like a bareback rider.
Yeah, that's never.
And that kind of caused some collateral damage. I ended up having to have an elbow surgery in 2014. And then once that happened, as soon as I started coming back, I got the opportunity. I got a call randomly from PBR at that time, and they said, "Hey, do you want to come be a stunt double for Scott Eastwood on this movie, The Longest Ride?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What?"
Where'd this come from?
I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah, and they told me Jeff Robinson was taking the bulls out there, and they told me how much it was going to pay per bull, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll get back on. That's where I'll kind of crack back out and knock the rust off, and
right.
And so I did, and I ended up doing pretty good out there, and I rode a couple bulls, kind of for some of the regular scenes throughout the movie, and then they saw that I was kind of doing all right, and I ended up getting on Rango, which was the number 3 bull in the world at the time, I believe. And he had already dusted Marcus Merluch and Brant Atwood. And I seen Brant crawl on him at 8:30 in the morning one morning.
Wow. And, that's not one you want to get on for breakfast.
Oh my God. He was so rank. I'll tell you what, Brant stuck it on him for about 3 or 4 jumps, and it was about as rank as it gets. And he, that bull was feeling his oats on that movie set for sure. And Marcus didn't last very, very long either. I don't think him or Brant really added up 8 seconds together on him. And so it came my turn. I got on him, I think the next morning, after Brant got on him, I got on him at about 8:30 in the morning. And, I ended up staying on him for about, 5 or 6 seconds probably. They got quite a bit of footage with it. And again, he was really, really rank, and they let him rest for 2 or 3 days. And we were out there for a whole week, and I think they bucked him probably 4 times that week. And I ended up crawling on him that very last shoot night of the set for that week, and they had like one last shot to get it right, and they had these huge cameras out there called a Phantom, which is like the most slow motion camera at that point in time that you could really dial in the super cinematic slow-mo on a shot. And I think they told me it costs like some crazy number, like $1 million to rent a day or something like that. It was wild. And so, or maybe it was 100,000. I don't remember. To me, it was like $1 million, but they set it up for me to get on this bull at midnight, at the end of the whole shoot day. So they told me, go home or go back to your hotel, and, we want you rested. You rode him the longest the first time, so we're going to give you another shot. And if you ride him, we're going to pay you an extra $10,000.
Oh,
so I was like, hell yeah, come on, let's do it. So I got to sit at the hotel all day and hang out, and I kind of got in my routine and got ready, and to me, I was thinking about this shit like PBR World Final Short Round. This is my time to shine. I'm gonna do it. And I ended up crawling in there on him again, and I just remember thinking, especially that first time I crawled down on him, like I don't know. Did you ever get on that bull, Cody? Or
no,
I guess
he
was
a little after my time.
You probably got over the top of him and saw him before, though, didn't
absolutely.
you?
Yeah.
I mean, I've just built like a damn army tank.
Yes, sir.
And, them horns were about as wide, kind of like Wolfman, he had them big, long, wide down horns. And I just remember everything was just uphill built and about as hard and uncomfortable as it gets when it comes to sitting on the back of a bull, and just rock solid. And and I was just coming off of an elbow surgery, and he damn sure tested that elbow out the first time, and I was sore, and I was like, gosh damn, I've got more work cut out for me. And I remember tying down in there on him, and I got Luke Snyder, Justin McBride, I think your brother was there, JW maybe. And all my legends, all my heroes were right there around me, and everybody was counting on me at the stroke of midnight to make this ride happen. And at that point in time, Sean Gleason had just stepped in to become CEO. And, I thought, I didn't know much about the guy at that point in time, and he didn't know much about what he was doing at the time, but still, I'll look back and tell him, thank you for that opportunity. He gave me that opportunity, and I owe him that. But, when it came to that, it was me that had to stick my hand in the rope, and me that had to do it. And he didn't do that for me. And they used us to get what they needed there. And I'm really, really thankful. I got, it was debatable. I would have had to punch the clock on the watch to see if I rode him all the way or not. I lost my rope right there about 7, somewhere in there. And I held on for another half jump with the tail of the rope in my hand. And, to this day, I feel like I probably did ride him. Yeah. And it was right there, splitting hairs, whether I did or didn't.
Well, I have talked to several people about that ride, and they said they thought you rode him. They would have, if they was judging, they'd dang sure give it to you.
Yes, sir. And that really kind of spurred my confidence on from there. That opportunity, just being able to do that, and it kind of showed me, hey, maybe I still have what it takes to do this, and kind of went on from there and healed up a little bit. And then immediately that next year in 2015, I got on tour full time, and had a good year. Ended up in the top 5 at the World Finals that year. I actually, right before the finals, broke the shit out of my collarbone. I think I remember that. A bull jerked me down in Jackson. Yes, sir. I had a bull jerk me down in Jackson, Mississippi. He kind of blew way out of there and landed on his ass end, and then lurched forward and brought a horn right across that collarbone and knocked a section of that collarbone out, split it. It was trying to come through my skin right there, and Stormy Wing and Douglas hauled me back home that weekend, Douglas Duncan, and they took me to Tandy the next week, and they put an 8-inch plate and 6 screws in there. And I think me and Brady Sims were kind of battling it out for maybe on the bubble of making the finals that year. And I had to go at least to one more event before the end of the season, and that was Tucson. And I ended up being able to bounce back in about a month and a half. I went and got some therapy called ozone therapy. I don't know if you guys are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, yeah.
So it's crazy, and I don't know if they really allowed it in a lot of sports at that point in time, and I still don't know if they do now. But it's all it is it's oxygen, ozone, and they mix ozone with your blood with like a bunch of minerals and vitamins and colloidal silver and all this stuff, and they inject it straight into the injury or wherever you've got a problem going on, and then they would run an IV in you and take about 5 cc's of your blood and mix it and run it back in you. And my mom had gone and gotten some treatment for her health at the time. She was bedridden with an illness at that point in time, and she had a miraculous bounce back from it and went and did that treatment. She told me to go do the same thing, and I went up to Lubbock, Texas, and seen a doctor up there, and I went and did maybe like 2 or 3 of those treatments, and a month and a half I was able to bounce back, and I felt like Superman. And I was 90. I think I was 90 on my first bull back at Tucson, and ended up winning enough to get me to the finals. And I rode my first 3 bulls there at the finals, and I ended up winning the rank round on walk off.
I like
which was
that
a bull they weren't riding much at that point.
Right. Well, we'll get back to you ride at walk off here in just a minute when we get a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Dennis Davis Bucking Bulls, Glory Crane, Sutherland Logistics, Blake Skaggs Bucking Bulls, and Print and Stitch Company.
All right, walk off at the finals. Man, what a great bull that was. I thought that bull should have been up for Bull of the Year a couple times. And he never was. I don't understand what they was saying. I thought that bull was awesome.
He was a good bull. He had all the potential.
Oh, man, big. He had the size, he had the look, he had the crooked horn, and, I mean, would get it on right there. Woo, big bucker.
He was kind of old school rank in my mind. Like, exactly he reminded me of the bulls that you guys got on and my dad got on back in the day, and had that black baldy look.
Uh-huh.
Who was hauling him? I can't even remember. Was it Chad?
Yeah.
Jeff
was?
I think Jeff hauling him, yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying on the break, we, he always kind of looked a lot more of a handful than what he actually felt. And I think that day with me, the trip that he had was a really, really good day for that bull. I had seen him be probably a lot more to handle, though, on a lot of other days.
Yeah, I've seen him, make a couple rounds right there and then jump out of it and go back the other way. I think
kind of give you a mambo in between.
Yeah. And he was big, so it was a big mambo. It wasn't just a little mambo. He got it on.
Them shoulders were about as wide as my legs could spread down that chute.
Doing the splits up there on that big sucker.
But when you got I'm sorry, guys. Speaking of my dad, he's trying to call me right now. Is that beeping on y'all's end?
No, we're good.
He must have heard his ears must have been burning, I guess. I don't know. But no, so, I had Adriano Moraes right there on the back of my chute pumping me up to get on him, right there. Yeah. And I think he might have even pulled my rope. And so I had a little extra oomph.
Yeah. Yeah. So you rock on, you get through the finals that year, and then you got a pretty good year going, and then comes the accident, huh?
Yes, sir. So finishing the top 5 there at the finals, go into the new year. I had pulled some ligaments in my knee really bad there at the finals. I ended up not even getting on in the short round. And, really I knew at that point in time with where I was at on my ability level, my mental level, and my physical level, if I could stay healthy enough going into the new year, my mindset was to go for a world title.
Mm-hmm.
That was where I felt like I had gotten back to with my consistency level and my physical peak. I had really gotten into doing a lot of hot yoga and, was feeling self-strong and about at the peak of my physical condition that I had ever felt to ride bulls, and felt like I had teed in on my equipment, teed in on my mindset.
Yeah. Firing on
and all those
cylinders.
things. Yeah, I was firing on all cylinders. That's right. And I went into that next event in Chicago, healed up, ready to go again. Went back and did some more of that therapy, and was feeling stronger than ever. And I had kind of a weird feeling in my stomach going into that event, but I thought it was, because I knew I was going to win that event. That's in my mind. That's what I felt. And I ended up rooming with Mike Lee that weekend, of all people, and what a guy! I love that guy. But
quite the character.
Quite the character. Him and I had never really roomed or traveled together at that point. In fact, I think we almost got in a fist fight that weekend in the bathroom. He walked in and we're all hanging out, and we'd all been having a good time that night, and we'd never been around each other that much. And he, I think he won a little bit that night, the first night, and thought his score should have been a little higher, and told me mine should have been a little lower, I think. And we got it, it went that way. They had to separate us, but next day, I had a bull that I'd been wanting to get on all the year before that I had seen that cowboy up. I don't even remember who was hauling him at the time, but I really liked the bull. I'd seen Cooper Davis ride him a time or two and knew that he was going to fit me to a T. And I was the first guy out. And boy, I knew we were going to get tapped off. And we did. As soon as he left there, it was move for move, jump for jump. It couldn't have felt any better. As the last bull ride I ever made, it was, I remember it feeling about as good as any ride I ever made,
Right.
And I just remember looking out, trying to dismount. And at that time I was keeping my glove and my rope about as sticky as you could possibly keep it. And that thing wasn't coming out, and it kind of hung for a split second when I went to make my dismount, and it just threw me off just a split second enough. When I launched out, I was trying to get off away from my riding hand that I was tied down with, and jump off out to the side because he was spinning to the right there with my riding hand. And I just, instead of jumping out and moving out away from him, it ended up launching me straight up and kind of did a backflip type of gainer sort of thing. And instead of getting fully rotated and landed on my hands and my feet, or kind of catways on my hands and knees, I just came straight down like a yard dart and lost momentum and didn't get turned over. And as soon as I hit the ground, I knew I broke my neck, and it was really bad. And I felt like I was, dying right then and there, to be totally honest.
Wow. That's a wild, I've been numb before and lost movement in my legs, but it come back fairly quick. How long did it take for you to get your stuff back?
Yes, sir. So as soon as I hit, I remember trying, out of reaction, just it didn't knock me out or phase me at all. Like it just, I felt that crunch in my neck, like someone stomping a beer can, and it sent shock completely through my body. And at that point, I was paralyzed below the neck, and I remember trying to raise up, and I felt my neck raise up, and then immediately just the sharp swelling and pain and heat, started to come in. And then I started seeing colors and felt like my chest was caving in. And, I started praying to all my angels and God right then and there. And, when they say your life flashes before your eyes when you die, like, literally it did. I remember sort of like a reel tape in my head of like all the people I love and special memories. And it was a wild, wild experience. And I remember just praying to the dear Lord to hold on. And if there's anything left for me here on this earth to do, that he would let me do it, And I remember the paramedics and the ambulance, they all handled me real carefully, and I really appreciate them. And, everybody, the doctors, everybody that took care of me there that day, I owe everything to,
Right. Yeah, for sure. And so after that, you go in, and how long was it before? How long was surgery? Obviously you had surgery and stuff.
Yes, sir. So they took me to the hospital. I remember Todd Pierce was the chaplain at the time for all those PBR deals. Does he still do that?
I think so.
So he, I'll always be grateful to Todd. He rode with me to the ambulance that day. I was the first guy out, so they had the whole rest of the event to do. But I think everybody knew at that point it was pretty serious, and nobody had ever seen me get wheeled out of there in the ambulance on a stretcher before. I've always been able to walk up and get out of there, no matter how bad I've been hurt, thankfully. And that was my first experience with that.
Yeah.
And I remember the ambulance ride to the hospital. I was sorry, I don't know if y'all can hear my neighbor's donkeys.
That's Blake in the background.
But yeah, they're going off over here in the pasture next over. But I'm riding in the ambulance, and I'm seeing these colors, and I'm feeling like literally my body's just kind of my spirit's just getting pulled out of my body. I'm kind of having like this wild psychedelic outer body experience,
Wow.
and Todd's praying for me right there in the ambulance, and he's calm. He's, speaking peaceful words over me and encouraging me to hold on. And the craziest thing happened. I remember the very first thing I started to feel again, I didn't get full feeling back, but the first thing I felt that made me know it was going to be okay was on the ambulance ride to the hospital. As I'm praying, as Todd's praying, I'm at some point before we got to the hospital, I felt like water turn in my stomach, like a wave turning over. And I remember, thinking immediately in that moment, like, damn, I just felt something,
Yeah.
and it was the weirdest thing, man. And all I can attribute that to is God, honestly.
I
you
believe
know,
it.
whatever and whoever and however God is to you, and what that means,
Right.
it was a real miracle. And I know I was dying at that point. It was bad. And, they hauled me straight into the ICU. It took I think 4 doctors and about 6 hours of surgery to put me back together. And they had to wait till the swelling went down and tried to keep me stabilized till then for like the next day or two till they could get surgery on me. But, another thing about all that's so crazy that I've told people is that specific arena there in Chicago has got sand in it.
Yeah.
If that would have been any other arena, I have no doubt I probably would have died. If it was on harder ground. That fall I had, and on top of that, in Chicago, that hospital that I went to is the best hospital in the nation for spinal neurosurgery type of injuries.
And they say things don't happen for a reason.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, the Lord's got his plan.
Yes, sir. The good Lord is good. And, I still to this day don't have any other explanation for it other than he just wasn't done with me yet. And, I sure probably deserve worse. I know I did, and it's only because of his grace that I'm still here talking to you guys today.
Well, how long after that did you walk out of the hospital?
So that took me, I think they had me in there for another week or two. I really don't know what the timeline was the whole time I was there. My family flew in as soon as they could. Douglas Duncan, my buddy, most of your viewers probably know who he was. And, we were good friends and grew up together and traveled together. And he ended up staying with me for the next few days until my family could get there. And, that was really comforting. And then, once they did surgery on me, my family was there by that time. They kept me in there and, kept me eating, kept me feeding me through a tube basically. And, pretty much over the next week and a half, they started trying to get me to, do little movements, get me out of bed, help me stand up kind of thing. It was extremely painful.
I'm sure.
My neck had just literally been decapitated pretty much with the skin around it still.
What was
my spine.
What was the break that you broke? Was it what was it, C3?
I broke my C2, which is basically right here in the middle. It's at the main pivot point of your neck, basically. You got your C1, which is right below the base of your skull. Yeah. And then you got your C2. And in the middle of that C2, what they explained to me is you got a major artery right there in the middle of that. And that's the most miraculous part they explained to me about all this, is because when I landed and it crushed my head down into my spine, and all that right side of this vertebrae kind of shattered. And those bone fragments is usually what paralyzes people and goes through the nervous system. And the fact that it shattered the whole right side of that bone. and they had to go in there and put a bunch of cadaver bone in there to replace it and remove all that shattered bone. And they said the fact that none of those bone fragments like hit your artery or sliced your nervous system right there is just like, you're less than 1% of anybody we've ever seen that's ever happened to.
Wow.
Man.
And he said most people don't live or ever walk or talk or think or anything from that. And pretty unreal.
Yeah.
And so they ended up putting a fusion in there and putting cadaver bone in there to put it back together. And then about a week and a half later, I started making rounds around the ICU where I told my doctor, I said, y'all are going to see me walk out of this motherfucker before I leave. And I knew, in my mind at that point in time, they had told me too, that's all I could ask them is when do you think I'll be back to riding again?
Yeah.
And they thanks to them, I think they tried to keep my spirits up, and I don't even know if they really knew if I would ever ride again or not in their own opinion. But they told me, it could be within the next 7 months. And I think they tried to kind of keep my spirits up, on that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in the back of their mind, they knew how severe it was and that I probably would never ride again if I was to make a smart decision, on that. And so that kind of kept my mindset, okay, well, you're going to see me walk out of here and I'm going to ride again one day, and that was my mindset.
Moving. Yeah.
Yeah. And it helped me stay positive. And then about 3 months into that, while I was healing and had my neck brace on, I laid there for the next 3 months, letting my neck heal back together to my body and watching the ceiling fan go round and round. And about went crazy. Went through a terrible breakup with the girl I was seeing at the time, and bless her heart, I can't imagine what I put her through. There was all kinds of trauma, and shit that I was dealing with around that. And I was on muscle relaxers, pain pills. I remember her coming home one night and having to hide all the guns from me because I was, I just wasn't in a good place mentally and wanted to end it. I was miserable. And on top of that, I think that kind of happened once I had gone to my last doctor's visit, before they told me, we're not going to release you back to ride again here at PBR. That's just not an option. It's too big of a liability with what they had to do to you and what your injury was. And I knew deep down inside, even though the doctors had given me that hope, like I knew I wasn't right, and that was the toughest thing for me to swallow really was just knowing, like my whole life's investment for 19 years of my life riding and all the work and all the dreams, not only did the doctors tell me that, but like I already kind of knew it deep down.
Well, that didn't slow you down too much, because after that, you did walk out of that hospital.
I did walk out of that hospital, and I climbed 3 flights of stairs before I left that hospital, and showed them that I was going to be good, good for life anyway. And then, as soon as that happened, the agency, the company that owns PBR Endeavor had reached out about doing the modeling work and sent me a contract to go up there and do all that in the industry. And at the time, I had nothing else going on for me in my life. And that certainly wasn't something I ever set out to do or thought I would get into.
What bull rider ever grows up and says, I'm going to be a model?
Exactly.
Yeah, hell no. My aunt, I've got a female cousin that did some of that in Dallas, and she was always trying to get me to do stuff like that, but I always told her she was crazy, and I would never do something like that. Yeah. But it turns out I ended up doing something like that and definitely did. And, it was a wild ride. It was totally uncharted territory for me. I felt like a man in outer space. I was maybe I might still be the only cowboy that's kind of gone and done that in that area of modeling and high fashion world. Like,
you know what's funny though is when I remember when you went up and did the modeling and stuff, and the first thing that popped in my mind was Woody Harrelson on Cowboy Up.
That's exactly what I was
big
thinking
billboard with nothing but in his Calvin Klein underwear. I was like,
Exactly.
that's Bonner right there. It's going to be Bonner
Exactly
right
what I was
there.
here thinking.
that's exactly what I thought going into it, and that's exactly what that's all I could think about while I was doing it. It was something else, man. I had a blast with it. I tried to make it the best I could, and thankfully I was already pretty street savvy from traveling the world riding bulls my whole life, and I'm a 30, at this point I was a 30-year-old man. Yeah. Or it might have been 29 at the time, I think, actually, when I first started. But I knew who I was and my identity, and was secure in my sexuality. And,
That's good. Always good.
And, despite anyone's ideas or opinions on that, I definitely know which side of the fence I'm on there. And, for me, it was incredible money, especially for me. Like I'd never made money like that, even riding bulls. And, met some great people through that industry. Definitely. A lot of the people in the agency were really, really good to me. The guys that I worked with that managed me were extremely good to me, to help me kind of have foresight to know what to expect, how to be around certain situations, and how to navigate certain things. And they really looked out for me from at least my agent's side. Now, as far as the overall company of Endeavor and some of those situations and people that I got to be around and jobs that I did, I could say a whole lot more. And there's definitely a lot of negative things that come with that industry.
Sure.
There's the whole Me Too movement that happened while I was in that industry. Definitely is a real thing, and I experienced some of that shit. And there's a lot of weird ass shit that goes on in that industry that I definitely do not condone or agree with, nor did I partake in. And there's a lot of shady dealings, a lot of shady people, a lot of shady photographers, a lot of shady situations that young people get thrown into that don't know who they are.
Wow.
They get manipulated at a young age.
That sounds a lot like the bull riding industry as well.
100%. No, it's very similar. And, when that entertainment company came in to take over PBR, they were, and all the other sports and things that they've taken over, that's, they've reached their claws as deep in as they can to find the talent to basically condition into those positions to kind of fulfill that role and they're feeding off of the bottom of everything that they own and trying to, basically use and extort a lot of these talented young individuals and beautiful young people. And a lot of these people get thrown into really, really terrible situations. And had I not been a 29-year-old man and a cowboy at that, I think I would have had a lot harder time, and a lot worse things would have happened to me, But I think the "don't fuck with me" vibe definitely resonated with a lot of those people.
That's good. That's always good to have.
Yeah, watch
like
out.
that.
You might get punched right in the mouth.
Yeah, punch you right in the mouth.
And but there was a couple times people did try to cross that line, and it was a really hairy deal, and I dang sure had to draw that line real clear for them in the best way I could without getting sued,
Right.
and putting myself in a bad situation.
Yeah. So you moved on. You got out of the modeling, or you still model, or you got into?
I'm still
building,
in contract with the Tom Ford deal that I did. That's been an ongoing deal, and I want to say, right out there in the open again, my agents that handled me, the owner of the agency, and the guy, my personal agent that handled me, David. I owe a lot of gratitude to those guys. And Tom Ford, Mr. Ford himself, was a badass when I met him. He loves the Western world. I think he's got a couple ranches. Was a really great dude. I got to meet him on set. And, he's been really, really good to me. I want to, definitely throw a shout out to Tom Ford for, the deal that he gave me and that opportunity. And it's still an ongoing deal that I get paid for. And they've done really well with that campaign.
Yeah. And now you've started this, you kind of started a gambling deal or something, kind of a PBR fantasy or something like that, right?
Yeah. So I ended up, after 3 years of experience in that whole rodeo, I ended up deciding, you know what, I'd really like to get back to my roots. And that's when I decided, I want to build something. I want to build a business for myself. I want to have something to turn all this opportunity into that I can continue to get some longevity out of and have a career beyond this and make real impact, hopefully.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I got to go back to when I got hurt, and this will kind of make sense when I say it, but a charity took care of me called Rider Relief Fund at the time when I broke my neck, and they were really good to a lot of athletes at that time, and they were really making some real impact in a lot of lives, but it was mostly fan driven. It really wasn't associated with PBR.
Yeah.
It was just
the rider relief. That was different. That wasn't so. The resistoral relief was more with the PBR than rider relief, right?
Okay. Yes, sir.
I had a big falling out with resistol. They didn't do what they said they was going to do. And anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
For the podcast. But
well, and the rider relief fund deal, I think, was more from a dedicated group of the fans that decided to get together, which is so pathetic. For not because of that, but because the sport doesn't take better care of their athletes than that, and that the fans took it upon themselves to do this and organize this, and it's still kind of that way, but now the sport has their hands in it more, and I don't see it making as much impact as it used to, even though they've got some extracurricular things that they're helping. They put on some of these, training camps and whatnot for these guys. The type of help that the bull riders are receiving now, I don't think is quite near as much as what I got. These people paid for $114,000 of my neck surgery. Wow. And, at that point in time, that was life-changing to me because otherwise I would have been completely down the drain financially and been in a much worse spot, and wouldn't have gotten near the start and opportunity with any of that other stuff. I would have been deep in debt, real deep in debt. And I didn't have any real assets. I didn't own any property at the time. I was paying payments on my truck still. I lived in an apartment. I was just barely really kind of getting my feet really deep in my bull riding career, where I was starting to gain ground. And as most of your fans probably already know, and those that don't, that are going to come on and discover this podcast, bull riders don't make very good money.
No, they
and
sure
we
don't.
put our lives on the line every weekend in the most dangerous sport on dirt for pennies next to what the organizations and corporations are making.
For sure.
And they want to push it and elevate it like it's this major pro sport, but most of these guys are now, even though they're trying to put a little more glitter on it, they're still not making any better money than what I was, hardly. When you really spread it out, and I've seen them advertising this bullshit about $3 million payout coming up this next year in 2024. Well, I read the full article and the breakdown of that payout, and it's still not paying any better than it used to. You know, it really ain't when you spread it out. I mean, it's about on par.
They're paying out more rounds. It's not they're going to what, Dickies and then Fort Worth, then the Cowtown Coliseum, and then AT&T. You add all them rounds.
Yeah, and you got
to
chase them around to 3 different venues and locations to even catch all the action now.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a circus.
And so
Sean Gleason is turning it into a circus.
Yeah, and what the hell kind of sense does that make? Not much at all. And you know, that's just a prime example of the management there, and Sean Gleason and you know, his management style and how poor it is. And you know, at the end of the day, these guys are going to wake up, and they already are. There's a lot of guys waking up to it, and their numbers are doing poor in their viewing, and they're going to continue to go down. And I'm happy to see it, because there's another opportunity rising up through me and my organization and all the cowboys that are forming together. And there's definitely a lot happening under the hood. I can't speak a whole lot on today for the integrity of the project, but just know, Sean Gleason, there's a lot happening. Okay. And we're going to do it. We're going to take the reins back. The Cowboys are going to take this back, and there is a revolution happening. And that's why I love your podcast, Cody, because of what you stand for and what you represent. And I'm here alongside you to help shake and wake this industry back up. Every single cowboy out there, you know, it takes some spine to be a cowboy, to be a true cowboy. That's what a real cowboy is, someone who's willing to stand up and do the right thing and speak out and defend the innocent, you know, and the helpless and those who can't speak for themselves. And in this case, I'm happy to be that. I'm happy that you're that. We're not tied to PBR anymore.
Nope.
Even though you had an incredible career, you're a world champion, you know? And that's what's so special about what you're doing, is you still have a lot of impact, a lot of influence. And what you did in your career, you know, you were one of my heroes. There's still all these young kids coming up who know who you are, that look up to your career and what you did. And you know, it's going to take leaders in this industry joining together, locking arms, to take it forward and take the reins back. And I'm just here to simply remind all these guys, it ain't hard. This ain't rocket science. This organization that they're riding for was started by cowboys.
Yes,
you know,
was. That's why it got so great. That's why it got so great. It was built by the bull riders, for the bull riders, and ran by the bull riders.
That's what made it great. And any little essence of anything that's there still that is good is because of that. It's because of these riders. It's because of the stock contractors. It's because of the bullfighters that get together and organize and make this shit happen. It's not because of the corporate side of it that's sucking the life out of it and running it into the ground and literally extorting every single one of these athletes, you know, and all these. There's a lot of guys that suck up to this shit, and it makes me so sick. And you all know who you are, and I'm sick of y'all, you know. And it just, I'm done with it. And I know there's a lot of guys who are tired of it that want to organize away from it. And I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of the guys that have been coming to me and talking to me about this, because I'm stepping out as a leader here to represent each and every one of you guys. And you know. Come at me, PBR. I dare you. You know, that's all I can say, because we're here and we're taking over, and it's going to happen.
But you got to have strength in numbers. I think you've got to get everybody on board, because you talk to some people, you can talk to anybody you want to, and they'll be one way behind the chutes and tell you exactly, I think, and they can bring it up to you. They're not just agreeing with you. They'll bring it up to you and tell you, hey, I think this is wrong, man. I don't like the way they're doing this. This don't look right. But then when it comes,
there's a lot of guys who talk out of both sides of their mouth, and I'm sick of that too. And I know I've talked to a lot of them.
Well, I think a lot of them, the reason they don't speak out the other way is because PBR and ABBI are nothing but big bullies. They don't like people to talk back to them. They don't like people to push back against them or question their judgment or their movement, and then they'll just blackball them or whatever they got to do to get rid of them. And it's
at the end of the day,
numbers.
if you're going to be a real cowboy, it takes balls.
Mm-hmm.
It takes spine. And guess what? Motherfucker with a broke spine's the one standing up saying shit.
Yeah,
you know, and
absolutely right.
These guys who are the top of the industry, the JB Moonies and the Cooper Davises, the Jesse Lockwoods, you know, I'm calling y'all out too. Y'all are the leaders, you know, and y'all are the ones with the most influence. And I know JB feels the same way, you know?
Yeah.
And, but there's a lot of guys who need to step out and lead and organize. And I think it's going to happen, but I know some of these guys' careers are still so closely tied to it. And you're right.
Yeah.
Every time it starts to happen, Sean Gleason rides in trying to break it up because, you know, he wants to control, you know, the corporation wants to control and dominate this industry. They don't want a challenge. And they want to continue to sink their hooks into it and their fangs and suck it dry like a vampire. And that's exactly who they are. They're a bunch of fucking vampires.
Yeah.
And they are so disassociated from reality, from everyday common man, blue collar society. And they look down their nose at every single one of y'all and every single cowboy on tour, all you guys who are seated, who think that y'all have favor in their eyes. Let me tell you something. I've gone as high up into this organization that y'all ride for as anyone possibly can. And the company that owns them. I've met all the high up executives. I've been to all the parties, you know, and I know what goes on. And I'm gonna just straight up tell you, if you think that they care for your life and your career, you're sadly mistaken. You're just a number. And if they want, they'll chop you off and end your shit just like they've tried to do mine. Going back to my business and what I tried to create, you know, I reintroduced fantasy sports back into the world of bull riding. A couple guys tried to do it before me and didn't really get that far with it. And I had a brand builder come to me with the idea and educated me on, you know, fantasy football and all of the opportunity that it's created in other mainstream sports and how good it's done for those sports and their athletes and, you know, the ways that you can utilize that to give back. And that's been our mission, you know, because of how the fans took care of me. I felt it only organic and natural for me to get back involved in this sport and create something like that can give back to the fans and the riders. And that's been our goal and our mission. And I presented this to Sean Gleason 2018 to partner with my organization to do this so that it would give back to the riders and give back to the fans. And he immediately lied to me right then and there and said, we don't do anything third party with any other companies. And, you know, he immediately turned around and went to a company in Australia to build a game right in parallel with mine to compete with me and drown mine out and promote over the top of mine. Even though he told me, hey, Bonner, if you go build this, you know, we'll take a look at it and we might partner with you. And that's exactly what I did. So I went and spent fucking $70,000 on legal fees to develop this out and do all, you know, get all of my state to state laws and restrictions in place. And these cocksuckers took meetings with me all throughout that time. And the whole 3 years we ended up partnering together only to steal my intellectual property and my image. They sold my image illegally all over their corporate pitch deck, from Dancing with the Stars, Variety Magazine. I have this shit on proof, you know, on paper. And, you know, they sold it all over their corporate sponsor pitch deck, you know, and they've stole my videography and some imaging from me here recently too, just in their TV show, The Ride, without ever licensing anything or asking my permission. And so I've got a real problem with them for sure. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to win though. And I'm not here to get hung up in the weeds with PBR but I want the public to know who they are.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the Cowboys need to recognize it too and realize, you know what, they're just a number, and in their mind, they're less than the cattle are. You know, and they're replaceable. If you rise up and have anything to say, they'll replace your ass. They'll blacklist your ass just like they did me. Well, you kick enough people out of your party, they'll go start their own.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's it. At the end of the day, we don't have to have all this corporate control over our lives and our culture to exist. We were here before they came, and we'll be here long after.
Yeah, Cowboys have been around for a while. They fought a lot of wars. Cowboys and Indians.
That's exactly right.
So,
and what it means to be a cowboy is to stand up and do the right thing. And you know what?
even when nobody else is looking.
Even when nobody else is looking, that's exactly right. And, you know, nobody's perfect. We have all got our downfalls. And, you know, here's the thing. I hope and pray for PBR to get it right.
I do too.
I hope they will. But I know they won't, is the thing.
No, their
And
track record proves completely different. I love the PBR.
I've given
I love
them
the
every
thought
opportunity.
of it, everything.
Every opportunity.
And I just, without some changing of the guard up there, and without getting, cutting the head off the snake up there or whatever you want to call it, and getting some bull riders back in there in that boardroom that are actually still actively putting their hand in a bull rope where they can control and project their future in bull riding and guide that sport or that company in association in the direction that they want it in. The guys up there now that's in that circle and that niche, they haven't put their hand in a bull rope and ain't no telling how long. And I think when they pulled their hand out and traded their bull rope for the board chair, that's when PBR started going south. It wasn't no longer about the bull riders. It was about padding their pocket and longevity. How much could they stick in their pocket before this thing burned to the ground?
That's exactly right. 100%. And, you know, Sean Gleason, I would be willing to bet, has never set his fat ass on any bull or ever crawled in the chute with one, you know, nor will he ever, because he's a and you know, he ain't that kind of man, and he doesn't know what it takes to fill any of these guys' boots. He's never carried a rigging bag, you know. He can barely sit on top of a horse, and that's only for show.
Yeah.
You know, I bet he don't even own a horse. And at the end of the day, this is who we're dealing with. This is who you work for, guys. And is that what you want to work for? Is that who you want to deal with? Is that who you want to own your life and call the shots for your life and your safety? You know? And that's who's calling the shots, and that's who's juggling, you know, that's who's got your life on a tether string every weekend, changing rules left and right with your occupation. That's, you know, where your life's at stake every weekend, and you're risking your life for what you love. Just because you're out there risking your life on the dirt every weekend does not mean that these guys appreciate it. You know.
No,
it's nothing to them. They don't care. They don't understand. And they don't want to understand.
No,
and even if they do, they don't care. You know?
No, he don't care. Do you think he knows he's running it in the daggum ground? Does he know that he's the driver of the train that's fixing to run off the cliff?
I've told him. He ought to know. I've told him straight up, along with their attorneys. You know, I've told him that you're losing money for the sport. And you're doing a piss poor job of managing this association. And nobody in their right fucking mind would ever do business with you if they knew how you really are, you know? Yeah. And here we go. Everybody's about to know, you know?
About to know it.
And this is all stuff that can be proven on paper. This is not slander. This is not slander. I can prove every single statement on paper or video recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, good. Tough shit, guys. You made this bed. Now you're going to have to sleep in it.
That's exactly right. I think there needs to be some major changes up there, changing of the guard, and I think PBR could survive without those critical changes. I think they're speeding for the big cliff.
And that's truly my message, is just to wake these guys up and realize you guys come together every weekend and do this shit with or without PBR.
Well, a lot of people don't understand that bull riding is really simple. You got a bull rider and you got a bull.
Bull riding is bull riding. PBR is not bull riding.
No. So without bull riders or stock contractors to bring the bull, PBR does not have a show. And if they will come
together. And there's
together,
a lot of smart cowboys out here and smart businessmen, aside from these guys that are involved in PBR.
Millionaires, stock contractors.
Yes. Guys who want the cowboy culture to grow and expand and thrive and survive and live on and not control it, but help fuel it. Yeah. And I'm organizing men like that who are stepping behind me, stepping behind Rank Ride, stepping behind our brand and our vision and our mission, which is to give it all back to you guys, the cowboys, and the fans. You know,
that's where
and
it
that's
belongs.
exactly the way it's going to thrive. The fans is
what's made the sport to begin with. Fans
it's all
love.
About the fans.
Not only. Obvious fans love the sport. They paid $114,000 worth of your doctor bill. You know that you didn't have.
Yes,
fans
sir.
did that, not the PBR. Not anybody else. The fans did. Get it back to where it was, like in the old TNN days, where they showed a lot of bull riding and there wasn't no BS nowhere. You caught a couple interviews behind the chute after somebody got off, and then it went back to bull riding again. And that's what it was at. It wasn't all this, the show with all the lights, the
Dan
camera,
and Donnie,
the action, and Pam, and it didn't have all the lights, glamour, and the glitter going on. And I think all that is just a magic show.
It's a magic show. It is. It's truly just an illusion to make people think it's bigger than what it is.
Yep.
People, it's crazy. And I know PBR does pack some events out, and their viewership probably is better on certain days than others. But and here's the thing: I know they're making hella money. They've got to be making really good money. They're still selling the same old show though, and they just dress it up a little different from weekend to weekend,
But the same old show worked. The same old show worked. And when you go to putting the glitz and the glamour and the smoke and the lights and all that, that's when it gets their vision gets hazy. And I think that's just they're wanting to build that as an illusion so they can, continue to be the big bully in the industry.
How bad. I understand the concept of what they're trying to do with the team deal, and I think it could be great, but not with their management. And, but you're never going to make bull riding NFL on the other side of that same token. Bull riding is bull riding, and it'll always be that way.
Well,
it's
it needs
an individual
to be transparent.
sport.
They need to be more transparent. If we're wrong and we're saying something wrong, let them come on here. Let them come tell us. Tell us what we're missing. Show me, prove to me that everything's on the up and up. Give me it down in black and white and on the paper, and show me why you're doing it this way. And
show me the plan that you have to make these bull riders' lives better.
Yeah.
Show it to me.
Yeah.
Show it to the rest of us.
Prove
how are you going to give back to this world and help these guys' career be better beyond bull riding? What are you doing to take care of these athletes when they get hurt?
Where's the money going? I mean, I can go back to when they sold the shares right before they sold out the first time. I sold my shares. I was in a bind. Resistor Relief Fund would not help me out after I donated shaps and vests and ropes and all kinds of stuff for their auctions and to raise money for injured bull riders. Well, I got injured. And I'd been injured for about 2 or 3 years, and I needed that help. And they flat out told me no. And I quit donating. I quit buying anything at their auctions after that. And they just, man, kind of lost where I was going there. But they just.
That's okay. It's okay. But, here's the thing. If you guys want, if y'all want the Cowboys' loyalty, then how about some involvement? How about allowing the Cowboy voice to be heard
be transparent? Because I had to sell them shares so I could live, so I could feed me and my wife and I think I had Clancy then. I had to feed Clancy And because the other two wasn't born yet, and I'm like, man, I got to put food on the table, and I sold my shares back pretty much at whatever the market value was, which damn sure wasn't nowhere near what I'd have got with them. I'd have held on them. So I was a shareholder,
Right.
and they did not allow me or let me know that they was looking to sell that thing. And then when they did sell it, I sold the last couple shares a couple weeks before they sold out. I sold my last 5,000 shares a couple weeks before they sold out. They never once told me, hey, Cody, hey, you might want to hang on to them for a little bit. We've got an offer.
There might be a better opportunity for you to make more.
Yeah. And what I'd have held on to would have made me a couple $1 million.
Oh, they were happy to snatch it from you at the bottom
where did
dollar.
that money go when it sold? When they bought my shares, where did that money go? Because the prize money has never went up. It's still, when I won a round at the finals, it paid $22,500, and 23 years later or something, it's only what, 30,000 a round now, or 34.
Yeah.
So it ain't went up much at all. So where did all that money go? Where's it going? Show me the paper trail of where everything went. They're not going to do that. They're not transparent. And if they want to get everybody back on board and back together, you've got to be transparent. You've got to bring everything out. Put your damn cards on the table, and
Here's
show
the
everybody
reality.
what's going
Every
on.
season PBR, especially between the two split seasons now, they're probably making about $80 million a season. In all reality, from their ticket sales, at least. That's not including any of the sponsorships. And
Yeah, but does PBR make that on the teams? Because I think the individual teams, say they went to Oklahoma City, I think the Oklahoma Freedom had to pay for that arena. I think they get the results from that. I don't think PBR gets much of that. I don't know, one way or another. I don't know, but
right, maybe not. Maybe the
somebody had
teams
told
do
me
get
that.
the teams may benefit from that, but I guarantee you, PBR has their finger in that pie. Even on the team side.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
And I imagine the team owners are probably not that happy with the structure and management style that they have to deal with either. In fact, I know they're not. You know, I've spoken with JJ Gotch directly about this, and he's his team owner. He's just the manager for that team, but the team owner is one of the high ups at Endeavor that owns PBR. Now, tell me how good does that look? You know, and now you've got PBR, since they cut our deal off with my fantasy platform after they stole all kinds of intellectual property. Now they've let, we tried to go back to them and pay them for marketing, all the marketing they were supposed to give us in the deal that we were in. And now, as soon as we spent over $1 million building this shit over 3 years, 3 different website build outs. I mean, that's not just the software, but our whole entire brand and everything that we built around it. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee you, we spent well over $300,000 on just the software alone, probably close to $500,000. And that investment got it. We had to do several revisions over 3 years. We took all of PBR's criticism while they sat back and pointed their finger and promoted their own free games over the top of ours. And then as soon as we got ours to a point of monetization and ready to go and hit the market, well, that's when they cut our cinch. And so I came back to them and tried to pay their ass for marketing. One of their own bull riders who broke his neck and almost died in the fucking arena for this sport. And this is my point to all the bull riders that are going to watch this. You think your life matters and means something? It don't. Because they wouldn't even let me pay them for marketing at that point, because of the one podcast you talked about earlier that I put out mentioning just a tiny, in the most polite way, a fraction of what I'm talking about here today. Yeah. And the fact that they had terminated our relationship and that I didn't feel like they had a great management style, and that things could be better for the bull riders, which are facts. Those are just very, very subtle, polite facts, not dropping any bombs even. And so they didn't like that. And Sean Gleason told me I shouldn't have talked like that, and that I, if I thought I was going to get away with that I had another thing coming. And basically now they've denied me all access into even being able to directly market my product at PBR events. And so coming into the PBR team season, they let another company in called Stat Hero, an outsider, totally outside the industry, and have denied me all access to it. So, how good does that look for the fans? How good does that look for the riders? You riders that think you have a future here after your career, you got another thing coming unless you want to really suck, what, and do exactly like you're told. And you better start, either really practicing roughing up your knees or wearing some knee pads, because you're going to be down there sucking for a long time. Like a lot of these guys who've had padded position there for a long time. And they must have a lot of holes in their jeans in their knee area, Y'all got a lot of knee patches in your jeans, I imagine. But I don't roll like that,
I don't either, man.
And so that's what I'm saying here today. And here's another thing I want to point out before we go. On top of all this shit, the company that owns PBR, Endeavor, bought another company called Open Bet last year, which is a white label distribution data service for service and data to other gaming platforms and gambling platforms. All right. So they collect the data and they'll sell it to these gambling platforms. Well, them owning the sport too, how fucking good does that look legally? There can't be, I just don't understand that. You're running the odds and selling the data, and you're also setting up the matches. Well, hell, that does sound like a pretty good deal, don't it?
Yeah.
If you're in their position.
That's some insider trading or inside information or conflict of interest or any of them other damn things you want to call it.
And their legal representation, when I asked them why they terminated my deal, because we did everything they told us to and put all the money in, and I went and raised the money, built the damn software, took all the criticism they gave me, did everything they told me to do, and followed directly in step with everything they said, only for them, as soon as I monetize it, to cut my cinch, because they never expected me to get as far as I did with it. And they knew that I had beat them to the punch about 6 months early on what they had planned, because they had bought this Open Bet company for $700 million.
Gosh.
And then they partnered with another company called Alt Sports Data, and this new Stat Hero company. So now they're selling the data and telling them how to set their lines.
Wow.
And that's fact.
Yeah.
That's on paper. They've already promoted that shit. And I know I've got all the emails and the shit in writing.
Wow. I don't know how they get away with it. But they may not for long.
I'll just fix it.
They may not for long now. Nobody's talked about this.
Not with coming on this show, and then you spreading it on old Rank Ride over there and everywhere else.
Yes,
that's
sir.
about all we can do is get the word out, shine some light on some of the shady areas. But when I started this, I guess they had the wool pulled over my eyes just a little bit, even though I had seen some stuff. But since we've started this podcast and been putting this on, people have been coming literally out of the woodwork, and stuff is just landing in my lap, and I've just been in shock. I didn't know the shady areas were this damn dark. I mean, I knew there were some dark spots, but I mean, oh my goodness, this thing, it goes from top to bottom, to side to side. It incorporates the whole damn thing, and
this is just scratching the surface.
It's not all coincidence that all these things are happening and them dark spots are there. I think they were planned, and some of them intentional and for personal gain.
What's done in the dark will come to light.
Exactly
100%.
Right.
It only takes time, and if you're going to be a piece of shit, you better get ready to own it.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, Bonner, man, I think we've went way over time here, but like I told, we had somebody else on the other day, and I said we're gonna have to do a part 2 somewhere along the lines. So
yes, sir.
we'll
I hope
get
we can
back
have you
into
down
some-
here at the Rank Ride Studio soon, and get you down here at the Rank Ride Ranch.
Absolutely, we'll get down there and get on that for sure. So, but Bonner, I appreciate you, buddy. Hey guys,
Yes, sir. Thank
Hey,
you for
guys.
having me, and I hope I didn't hurt the ears of some of your audience. But some things can only be explained a certain way, and
Nope,
it's about time that it be heard the right way.
there is nothing off our table. Everything is talkable. We can talk about anything and everything under the sun. It does not matter. There is not a topic we will not talk about.
Well, God bless you guys, and God bless your viewers, and just know that the Cowboys are coming back. And
I
hey,
like that.
the Cowboys did come back last weekend, total shutout.
Oh, don't get into that football BS.
Yeah, baby.
How
Come
about
on.
them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
All right, Bonner, we'll see
All right,
you, buddy.
guys.
Hey, guys, if
All
y'all
right,
like
talk to you
this,
soon.
you bet. Hey, guys, if y'all like this episode, go watch and give us a follow on all social media and all podcast platforms, guys. And till next time, we'll see you then.